Wayne Mardle, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to episode number 29 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. We are back and we're predominantly probably going to chat about the competition that's just finished, and what a fantastic competition it was, the Grand Slam of darts. I've got the boys here with me as per usual. We've just watched Tottenham get their backsides handed to them by one of the worst teams ever in Europe. I'm sure Neil's going to come onto that in a moment and take great delight. But before we do that, let's introduce you to the man himself, the man who's the podcast is named after. It's Josh Gorton. Good evening, Josh.
Good evening, John. How are we?
Do you really want me to answer that?
If you want, why not?
Yeah, having just watched Spurs lose to the lowest ranked team in the lowest ranked European competition, it's not been good. Listen, I'd love to throw out excuses that we played a poor side and had a man sent off on half an hour, but it's a pretty rank performance. And if Conte doesn't know what he's dealing with, he certainly does now, Josh.
I think Nuno Espirito Santo will be sitting at home with a bit of a smirk on his face watching that, I think, after that one.
Still, it's better than watching Emmerdale Farm or Coronation Street on a Thursday night, which is what you've been used to this season.
Coronation Street's only on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, John. I'm a big fan of Corrie, I must say, especially Roy Cropper, so don't knock it.
I wouldn't know. Okay, completing the trio, it is, of course, Statsman, Mr. Neil Connor. Good evening, Neil.
Good evening, John.
Go on, 60 seconds, the floor is yours. Take it away.
No. I don't, I think it was bad enough for you to have to sit there and watch it with us in attendance, to be honest.
Yeah.
They were only formed in 2012.
Who, Tottenham?
And they don't have a club badge. Enough.
It's a rubbish competition. We don't want to win it anyway. Anyway, enough Tottenham chatter. Arsenal going great guns. Obviously, they lost.
Until last Saturday.
They lost to Liverpool. Neil, you must have been very happy with that result.
Yeah, not so much the result, but the performance, because we're used to the yearly capitulation of Arsenal at Anfield. But the performance was pleasing. So.
And Arteta and Klopp at each other's throats on the sideline, Neil.
Yeah, but it was...
handbags, wasn't it, at Dawn?
No, it was Arteta trying to get Mane sent off because he knew he didn't have a chance with 11 men on the pitch.
I'm not too sure about that.
My manager was defending his player, no problem.
Good. And before that, Josh, it was a good run though, wasn't it? Was it 10 games unbeaten?
10 games unbeaten, yeah. We've done well, but I think it's a bit of an eye-opener because I think there are people talking about top four. We're a long way off that. If we can get in the Europa League, it'll be a successful season. But yeah, a bit of an eye-opener. It was men against boys second half, literally.
Okay, well, let's move on. We are here to discuss darts. We do like to have a little chat about the football first, though. So yeah, Josh, the first things first. We're gonna have a real good in-depth roundup on the Grand Slam, aren't we?
Yeah, the Grand Slam, always one of my favourite tournaments. There's never any shortage of headlines, and this year was no different with a fantastic final, so many great narratives, few surprise packages. So yeah, great tournament as always.
Neil, did you enjoy the Grand Slam? I know you managed to catch quite a lot of it.
I did. I found it very enjoyable. Some classic matches. It's good to have a lot. Still nice to have a crowd there. I think we all agree having the crowds back makes such a difference, and very good.
Okay, cool. We'll have a chat about that. Obviously, the winners and the people who stood out and the people who didn't. Josh, we're also going to get the thoughts of Wayne Mardle on the Grand Slam, aren't we?
Absolutely. It's always great to chat to Wayne. He's brilliant value and he was in really good form. Just thanks to him, it was only about a day after the Grand Slam, so he's been really busy, but he still took the time out to chat and reflected on the Grand Slam, some of the biggest talking points, which players are in form, which players aren't. And he also gave us a bit of a preview ahead to the World Championship and revealed some of his picks, so that'd be interesting to hear later on. Yeah,
I had to listen to the interview just before we went live this evening. It's a really good interview. He's really on form this evening, Wayne, so I'm really looking forward to playing that one for you guys. Josh, there's no let up though, is there? Obviously, we've just come to the end of the Grand Slam, but tournament action kicks off again very, very soon.
Indeed, yeah. Friday, Players' Championship finals in Minehead, so the penultimate tournament of the year before the big one at Ali Pali. So a real chance for players to set their stall out and go into the World Championship with some form under their belt. So it'd be interesting. Michael van Gerwen, defending champion, not won a major yet this year, so he'll be looking to send out a statement before the big one.
Neil, and ahead of that, you'll bringing us some up-to-date odds for that tournament, yeah?
Yeah, we'll have a look at the Players' Championship odds ahead of the weekend.
Lovely stuff. We will then, of course, move on to one of our regular features, Challenge Josh. Neil, looking to put one over on Josh this evening?
As always, indeed I am. Something fairly topical again.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Is it Tottenham Hotspur European Victories 2021? Or?
We could probably do with a little bit more of that, to be honest. No, it's quite topical. I think he had a tough time of it last time, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, John Henderson and Parliament.
We had him stumbling early doors last time,
Yeah.
so I've been a little bit kinder this time.
Okay, good. Well, I look forward to that. We've also got some news items, haven't we, Josh, that have come into focus in the last few days.
Yeah, a couple focusing on the PDC and the Players' Championship final. We've also got some news involving Martin Adams, who is playing in the online Darts Live League with Modus. So plenty to chat about later on.
Yeah, and then we will conclude the show, as we always do, with Josh's Twitter chatter. That is your opportunity to send your questions into the three of us, and we will do our best to answer them. Don't forget, you can download the podcast from all your favourite podcast providers, be that Apple, Spotify, Google Play, all the usual places you get your podcast from. You can check out the website www.joshisdartistry.com, or you can go to Facebook, do a search for Josh's Dartistry, you'll find his page there. Follow us on Twitter, that's probably the best way to interact with Josh, at Josh's Dartistry. Always good fun following Josh's comments and reviews on there. Josh, you've been doing quite a lot for Sky as well, haven't you, recently? I've seen a lot go up on the website with your name underneath.
Yeah, really busy time at the Grand Slam, which was great. Also been trying to keep up to date with my website a little bit more. So I think I had about 8 or 9 pieces go up during the Grand Slam, which was always good. So I'll be looking to try and keep that up and maintain that ahead of the World Championship, which is a really busy time of year, of course.
Good. So a big social media presence for the brand, Josh's Dartistry online. So give us a follow. And if you know anyone who's into their darts and would benefit from listening to us ramble on about darts for an hour or a couple of hours, then please spread the word. But thank you for joining us. And here we go, episode 29 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Hi, this is Josh from Josh's Dartistry. Check out our website www.joshisdartistry.com for all the latest news, interviews and insight from the darting world. Do you want to get involved in the conversation? Then tweet us at Josh's Dartistry or message us on Facebook at Josh's Dartistry to have your say. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Johnny Clayton, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, Josh, kick us off then. Let's have your roundup and review of the Grand Slam of Darts.
Okie doke then, John. It was a familiar sight at the Grand Slam of Darts this year as the world number one, Gerwyn Price, clinched a third Grand Slam title in just 4 years, and his third at the Aldersley Leisure Village. It's been held there 3 times, and on every occasion Gerwyn Price has cleaned up, and he did so again this year in a repeat of the 2019 final, beating Peter Wright. So the top 2 players in world darts collided. Wasn't a great final. I think Peter was a little bit burnt out. We'll talk about the schedule of the tournament later on, but he was a little bit fatigued. He wasn't at his best, but take nothing away from Gerwyn because he was nowhere near his best in the early stages of the tournament. He lost to Martin Schindler in the groups, almost lost to Bradley Brooks, the world youth champion, in the last 16, but he really came into his own in the quarterfinals onwards, beat Johnny Clayton, then demolished James Wade and Peter Wright on finals day. So a 6th individual major for Gerwyn Price, and he's cementing that number 1 status in the world. I'm not
going to elaborate too much on it now because I know you had a good chat with Wayne Mardle about it, and that's coming up in our interview. But the point that you were discussing, which we'll listen to a bit later, is how Gerwyn grew into the tournament. And as you said there, Josh, maybe didn't make a rip-roaring start like Michael van Gerwen did, but then slowly built, got to the final and ended up winning the thing.
Exactly, and I think once a famous quote said, "It's not how you start, it's how you finish." And in Gerwyn Price's case, he finished fantastically well. I think he maybe just needed that competition, that feeling of jeopardy. I think in the early stages, no disrespect to the opposition, but I think he always felt he would have enough to go through. And the game he lost against Martin Schindler, although he lost that game, he was already assured of his place in the last 16 anyway, so there wasn't really that jeopardy in that game. But Johnny Clayton in the quarterfinals, he'd lost to Johnny the last 2 times they'd met on TV. And I think that had irked Gerwyn, particularly the game at the World Series finals. He was 7-2 up on Johnny and lost. So he wanted to send out a statement, really, and say, I'm still the top dog in the world of darts. And he did so. And I think the game against James Wade in the semi-finals, Again, James wasn't at his best. He was struggling with an injury. But Gerwen was just ruthless. I think 103 average, 64% on the doubles. That's top-class darts, whoever you're playing against. So, yeah, testament to Gerwen's, I think, mental strength that he's able to summon something. When he's struggling for form, in the big moments, he's able to produce the goods, and that holds him in great stead for the upcoming tournaments.
So how many Grand Slams has he entered now? And has he won three of the
last four?
3 of the last 4. And how many has he played in total now?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll have to check. I mean,
roughly.
It can't be more than about 6 or 7.
No, I mean, it's a pretty good return, isn't it?
Very good
for
return.
his entry.
Absolutely. And like I say, he's unbeaten at the Aldersley Leisure Village in terms of... He's lost group games there, but he's never not picked up the title there. So Wolverhampton's awfully a happy hunting ground for him. There's rumours it might move next year, but he'll certainly be hoping it doesn't.
That's an interesting point you make. Do you think darts play at women? We're all football guys and we talk about certain players are like playing at certain venues and score goals. Do you think that's the same for darts players? I mean, I know Phil Taylor was always a fan of playing at Blackpool, wasn't he? He said. Do you think the venue brings certain feelings of joy and happiness and comfortability depending on the tournament?
I think it has to. I mean, I think darts players are no different to a lot of sportsmen in terms of their superstitions. And Phil Taylor, as you mentioned, Blackpool there, he fell in love with the place. Gary Anderson's spoken about how much he loves Ali Pally. There's certain players that I know love playing at the Circus Tavern. So you just find a venue sometimes or a tournament where you just feel at home and you feel really comfortable. And I think Gerwyn's found that in terms of the venue and also the format. It's a really long, elongated format. So if you have a little bit of a sluggish start sometimes, you've got time to make it up. And he just seems really comfortable and confident there.
Neil, Gerwyn Price obviously taking the win. Did you catch many of his games?
I did, yeah, and I watched those early games, and I thought I didn't fancy him to go on to win the tournament, to be honest. But as you've both said, he does have that quality of delivering when he needs to and peaking at the right time. So they always speak about Olympic athletes having to peak for the biggest competitions. He seems to be able to do that, and he's going to be very, very difficult to beat at the Worlds coming up.
Let's look at the man he defeated in the final, Josh. Peter Wright. Talk to me about his tournament.
Yeah, Peter again was really unconvincing early on. He came into the tournament on wretched form. He'd had early exits at the World Grand Prix, the World Series Finals, the European Championship. He's been playing around with darts again. I know I mention it every single episode.
Surprise.
But I think he hadn't averaged over 100 on TV since his win at the World Match Play. So he wasn't convincing early on. He lost to Gabriel Clemens in the group. Still came top a little bit, fortunately. Beat the defending champ, Jose de Souza, 10-9 in the last 16. Dreadful game, to be honest, to watch. They were really both struggling. But then he played Fallon in the quarterfinals, and that's a brilliant game from both of them.
Yeah.
And Fallon, I must admit, I thought she'd struggle over the format, but I didn't think she'd play that well.
Well, she hung on, and it was a real competitive game in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was superb. But credit to Peter as well, because he was under a lot of pressure, both from her and also the occasion. And he stepped up to the plate. And then the semi-finals, he played an incredible game against Michael Smith, 12-8 down. Looking all the way that Michael was going to reach his first Grand Slam final, but then he reeled off 8 legs on the trot, Peter, and some of the best, probably the best spell of darts I've seen. I think there was 2 10-darters, 2 11s, a 170 finish, blitzed Michael Smith. But as I've mentioned earlier, he just ran out of steam in the final against Gerwen because 3 hours after that game against Michael, he's back on the stage. And I think the age may be a factor.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gerwen's a lot of a younger man. Also, Gerwen had an extra day's rest after the quarters, so it's a shame for Peter, but he'll take a lot from that, I think.
You mentioned her there, obviously Fallon Sherrock and her game against Peter Wright. Almost as much as a headline, if not possibly a bigger headline than Gerwyn Price winning the whole thing, was the Fallon Sherrock story. And it just seems to me, Josh, that wherever she goes now and wherever she plays a game of darts, it seems to be the headline, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I had a few texts this week when I was working on the darts from people who don't really watch darts that often. And they weren't talking about Gerwyn Price or Peter Wright or Michael van Gerwen. They were talking about Fallon Sherrock. And she is a story. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Gerwyn's victory, but she's created so many headlines, not just at this tournament, over the last couple of years. But we all know how good she is over the short format. So her getting through the group wasn't a surprise. The way she did it was spectacular, the 170 finish and the comeback.
That was brilliant.
And obviously the 101 average in the second game, highest ever average by a female on TV. But I think the way she performed over the longer format, particularly against Peter Wright, the world number 2, playing near to his best, and she pushed him all the way. So I think she's proved to any doubters that still remain that she's got what it takes to compete with the best in the world.
Yeah, Neil, that 170 checkout, that was something else, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. And I think she seems to be another one that can, when it really counts, deliver. And that was just more evidence of that. I think away from the big events that she's played in on the PDC, her form's not been overly great. But
No.
when she's put in a big event like the Grand Slam, she really knows, how to deliver, and fantastic. I personally feel she'll be a top 10 player going forward.
Oh, that's a massive shout.
That is a big shout.
I think she's starting to really believe. You can see the confidence that she's getting. She doesn't seem to be intimidated by facing the biggest names. So I think as she gets more belief, more experience, I think she has a chance to break into the top 10.
Well, let's have that conversation now, Josh. I'm just looking at the agenda, and we've got Fallon's exploits, and we were going to have a quick chat about that after the wrap up. But let's have that conversation now while we're talking about Fallon. Neil's bold claim there, top 10. You and I, Josh, had a conversation on WhatsApp in the week about possible Premier League pick and the merits of that. The marketing side of it obviously is a big thing, which I'm sure you'll talk to us about now. But what are you thinking, Fallon, for the Premier League next season?
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
As a fan's point of view, I think every time she goes up on that stage, it's exciting. There's that sense of drama that something big is going to happen. I think she could acquit herself very well. The issue is in terms of the tour card issue. The PDC have sort of set a precedent over the years that nobody who's not got a tour card will get a Premier League spot. She wins a couple of games at Ali Pali, she'll probably have a tour card automatically, and then it becomes easier to put her in. If Fallon were to lose, for example, in the first round at the Worlds, it then might be difficult to justify. But we debate the Premier League a lot about the contenders and the challenges. Sure. It's an exhibition event. It's not a ranking event. It's about promoting the sport. And what better way to promote the sport than put probably the most famous player in the world at the moment in Fallon on the big stage against the biggest players in the world? Because I think she's shown, as Neil said, she's got no fear. And I don't think she'd be intimidated, and I don't think a few defeats would affect her mentally. So I'd like to see it, but I do think she'll have to perform and get a couple of wins at the World Championship in order to get that Premier League place that people are speculating about.
But it would be an absolute dream for the likes of Sky, obviously the host broadcaster, bringing new eyes onto the product. And we've spoken at length before about getting more young ladies into the sport. Don't get me wrong, you go to Ali Pali or any darts and you see a lot of females in the crowd, but it still is a predominantly male sport that's watched by men. So it'd be great from Sky, and also the PDC as well. It's all about, in any sport, Josh, I think it's all about how many eyes you can get on the product and making them more money and getting more sponsorship, and then the prize money for the players goes up as well. So, it's good for the players. It's good for everybody, isn't it? Yeah,
you're spot on. I mean, the sport is growing. It's been growing at a great rate now for the last 5 years. But you're right. The majority of darts fans are still male dominated. So it could open a new avenue. And there's got to be young girls watching that with their mum or dad and being inspired by what Fallon's achieving, because she's breaking down barriers. She's showing that women are more than capable of competing against the best male players in the world. So it'll be a fantastic opportunity for Sky and the PDC. I'm sure it's something they're looking into. I know there's quite a few commentators and pundits who have been calling for it. Some players who aren't as happy about it, probably because their nose is being put out of joint in terms of a place. But
sure,
I think it'll be interesting. I think just the reaction on social media, and I think it's just shown just how popular and just how significant it will be, because there's been a great debate about it. It's provoked real strong reactions from both sides.
Neil, should the PDC or Sky, with their wildcard pick, put Fallon Sherrock in the Premier League for next season? What do you think?
I think it's got to be fair, and if that means she has to have a tour card.
But that's not a rule, is it? There's no rules written down.
I don't think it's an actual. It's more of a precedent that's been set. Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, Phil Taylor, for example, if he came back, would he?
Well, I'd give him a slot in the Premier League immediately. But
I would as well. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, it's never been done before. For example, we've had BDO world champions like Stephen Bunting and Glenn Durrant come over to the PDC, having won the BDO world title, and they've not got a Premier League spot straight away. So people may argue that's not particularly fair. But then again, has anyone had the impact in terms of the headlines that Fallon has? You look at the way at Ali Pali, she was creating global headlines. We had Billie Jean King tweeting about it. And I think in terms of a Sky point of view, I think our biggest articles and biggest videos at the Grand Slam in terms of most viewed were all about Fallon Sherrock.
Yeah, I think from a product perspective, it makes sense. But you don't want to ostracise some of your other players by making a decision that would be out of the ordinary. So, yeah, marketability and product wise, absolutely. A performance from Fallon at the Worlds to secure a tour card will help their case no end.
Okay, good. Josh, looking down, James Wade, obviously beaten semi-finalist, but still a good run for James. Now, you mentioned to me there that he had an injury. I don't know. I don't know if I had the sound off or what, but I was unaware of the injury. What injury was James carrying?
It was actually gout.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was struggling against Roby John Rodriguez in the last 16. He won 10-2 and played bloody well, but he said after the game he was in agony with it. He then beat Rob Cross in the quarters, and it looked to have largely cleared up. But it seemed to flare up in the latter stages against Gerwyn Price there. So that'll be something he wants to address, because over the longer format matches like at the Worlds, if he's struggling with that, it's going to be difficult. But yeah, James did really well at the Grand Slam, because at one stage I thought he was going to be going out. He needed to beat Rob Cross 5-3 or better in the last group game. And we all know how well Rob Cross is playing in the last month or so. But James averaged 111.71, his highest ever TV average to qualify.
Yeah.
Had 2 great games against Roby John and Rob Cross. So positives for James, because he often does this. He wins a big one like the UK Open in March, then he goes missing for months.
Yeah.
And people start to speculate, is James losing his edge? But he's not. When James Wade is focused and when he's hungry, there's very few players better in the sport than James Wade.
Josh, talk to me about Michael van Gerwen as his wait for a ranking major continues.
I think I've backed him for the last 4 TV tournaments and he's not won one. So the moment I stop backing him, he'll win one. But he's almost, you kind of referenced it earlier, he's almost the exact opposite to Gerwyn Price. Gerwyn really struggled early on. Michael came flying out the blocks. 106 average against Lisa Ashton. He set a new record in the Grand Slam against Joe Cullen, 115. He was just imperious. And I thought it's going to take something ridiculous to beat him over this long format. Great game against Gary Anderson, the quarter in the last 16, from Michael. But against Michael Smith, he had a shocking start. He went 5-0 down, took out a couple of huge finishes, showed glimpses of his brilliant best, but he just seemed to lack a little bit of composure. I think with Michael over the past, what has defined him as a world number one, as a champion, is his ability to rise to the occasion. In the biggest moments, he produces best darts, whereas at the moment, he's playing great darts, but his timing is just not quite there, and other players are stepping up to the plate and looking a little bit more composed under pressure. So he'll want to send out a statement before Ali Pali. He's playing more than well enough to win it, the World Championship, but there are still nagging concerns about his mental fortitude, I think, at the moment.
Neil, whenever we have the debate about Michael van Gerwen versus Phil the Power Taylor in terms of the greatest player to ever play the game, when I look at Van Gerwen's form of late, and we have this discussion, for me, when I look back at Phil's game, Phil could play poorly and still win tournaments. It seems to me that Michael van Gerwen has now almost lost the ability to play poorly and still pick up the trophy. Is that a fair assessment or no?
Yeah, I think belief of other players is key. So I think there's now more and more players that realise that he is beatable, and can be beaten. So I think comparing the two, Taylor's dominance and Van Gerwen's is very difficult. Taylor's went on for a lot longer. Van Gerwen was brilliant and still is brilliant over a shorter period of time, but where the competition is more difficult. So it's difficult to compare them. But I think at the moment he's still playing well. There is just that slight edge that he doesn't seem to have, and the longer this run goes on of not winning this ranking tournament, it will start to play on his mind, and it will start to bug him. And when you're getting in late in tournaments, and that's playing on your mind, it can have an effect. But I really think it's more to do with more players having the belief that they can beat him.
See, I've been fairly critical of Van Gerwen there, Josh, but on the flip side of that, I still think he can bowl it to Ali Pali and win the World Championships very easily.
Absolutely. And what you said about there in terms of Phil Taylor, I think you're right. Phil was unprecedented in his longevity and his consistency, but I do think the opposition that Phil was up against was largely not as strong. Yeah. You had the likes of Wade, Van Barneveld, Mardle, Manley, but the strength in depth now is unparalleled. You've got 10, 15 players who are capable of winning a major now. But it wouldn't surprise me if Michael won the Worlds. I think he's probably playing, I think over the last 3 months, no player's got a higher average than him in terms of a running average over the last 3 months. So his form is there, but as Neil said, it's about that cutting edge in the key moments. And if you wanted me to put money on a player to hit a double last dart in hand to win a major at the moment, I'd probably pick Johnny Clayton, Gerwyn Price over a Michael van Gerwen. If he can address that, I think he needs to get one. If he can get one major under his belt, like the Players' Championship finals, we could suddenly see something ignite again. It could spark him back, the confidence will come back, and we could see a different Michael van Gerwen because he's playing well enough, but the longer it goes on, the more the doubts will creep in inevitably.
And as you mentioned there, knocked out Josh by Michael Smith. Good tournament for Michael.
Really, really good tournament for Michael. I mean, he'll be gutted in the manner of his semi-final defeat. He was 12-8 up. I thought he was going to reach the final. I thought he might even win it the way he was playing. But he can take a lot of credit from the way he not only performed, but his attitude. I think he spoke a lot post-match in his interviews about trying to change the mental aspect of his game, because he has been criticised in the past for not a poor attitude, but his negative body language, shaking his head a lot, remonstrating with himself. But he showed none of that throughout the whole tournament. Beat Barney first game, really good game. Beat Gary, topped the group quite comfortably. Swept past Joe Cullen. He beat MVG, and that was his first ever TV ranking win against Van Gerwen. And against Peter Wright, he didn't do too much wrong. Missed a couple of doubles at key moments, but Peter was just on such a run. I don't think you can be too critical of Michael Smith, but if he can sort of maintain that new attitude he's got, his ability is not in question. He's one of the most naturally gifted players I've ever seen. So I think his time is coming. It's about time he won a big one. He's too good a player not to win a major title.
Talking of players sort of in the upper echelon, somebody who I thought Josh had a real sort of return to form in this tournament this year was Gary Anderson. I thought he was looking almost back to his old self in this tournament.
Yeah, me and Neil were chatting as well on WhatsApp. He seems to have got his hunger back a little bit. I mean, I thought he might go out the group stages because he wasn't performing particularly well going into the tournament, and he had a straight shootout with Barney to see who was going to progress, and he really turned on the style. 104 average, some of the best darts he's played, and then he backed it up against Van Gerwen. I know he lost 10-8, but it was a game of very fine margins. Both players averaged 100, and he had that sort of twinkle in his eye against Gary, and he always seems to come alive at the Worlds anyway. He got to the final last year, having not played particularly well in the months before that. So when Gary, I've said it about James Wade, but when Gary is focused and he wants it, I think there's very few players better in the world. And we all want to see a fit and firing Gary Anderson. I think we could see that at Ali Pali and, of course, in Minehead.
Josh, you mentioned him a moment ago, but talk to me about Raymond van Barneveld, how things panned out for him at the Grand Slam.
I think he'll be disappointed to have lost in the group stages. He's a champion, so he won't want to go out. But I thought he played pretty well. He had the highest average of the group. He had a higher average than Michael Smith and Gary. I think we saw, it sounds stupid to say considering he's a 5-time world champion, but I think we saw his lack of big stage recent experience, because he was 4-3 up against Michael Smith, had a great 8th leg, but in the last leg he had the darts, and he had 6 really nervy darts to open up the leg. And he lost that match. He won his second match against a struggling Joe Davis, but against Gary he was just simply beaten by the better player. But I think there's encouraging signs in the way he performed, but of course he'll want to be translating that into wins, and he's got a chance at Minehead, but he could play Michael van Gerwen in round 2, so it'll be hard pushed to go far there. But encouraging signs from where he was 18 months ago. He's definitely playing a lot better. Yeah.
Somebody else who's had a good 12 months, Josh. Tell me how Johnny Clayton's Grand Slam of darts went.
Yeah, disappointing for Johnny in the quarterfinals against Gerwyn Price, but I don't think he'll reflect on it too harshly. You know, he had a really good group stage, some really tough matches. I think every game was either 5-4 or 5-3, but he had a tournament average of 103 in the group stages. He eased past Nathan Rafferty, 10-2 in the last 16. Against Gerwen, he was just always behind, and he pulled it back on a couple of occasions. I think it was 12-all at one stage, and I thought he might go on and get that win, Johnny, but Gerwen pulled away at the end. But Johnny's a very relaxed character, which I think works in his favour. He's enjoying his darts, he's playing with freedom. If he loses, fair play, I lost to the better player, I'll come back next tournament and try and put it right. And I think his mindset will remain that way. And I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back and lands a 5th TV title in Minehead. I mean, it's been a fairy tale year for Johnny. And imagine if he won the Worlds to cap it off. The Premier League, the World Grand Prix, the Masters, the World Series finals. It's been incredible 12 months for the Ferret.
Yeah, and we look forward to his continued success. Josh, any other players that stood out for you during the tournament?
I thought Rob Cross played really well. I think our last live podcast was just before the Euros, and we're saying, can Rob Cross get back to his former glories? And a week later, he won the European Championships.
Yes,
I think you were psychic there, John, but he played well again. Narrow loss to James Wade in the quarters, but we'll be pleased with the way he's playing. The youngsters also did great. We had Rowby John Rodriguez, got to the last 16, and Nathan Rafferty and Bradley Brooks on debut. Been really good on the development tour and the youth tour. It's great to see these young players coming through and flourishing on the big stage. So really good, positive tournament for the youngsters.
Neil, let's throw it over to you. Anyone who particularly stood out for you? Anyone we've already mentioned or a player we haven't that you felt had a particularly good tournament?
Gary Anderson for me.
Yeah.
I like Josh. I think he looked like he had his hunger back. And as well as the hunger, there seemed to be some belief there. And I think in his game against Van Gerwen, it was neck and neck, and I think he quite fancied it. There seemed to be something.
Bit of needle, wasn't there?
There was a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was needle or not, but Gary got put off towards the end of the match, didn't he? I don't know whether Michael had made a sound or he'd coughed or something, and that seemed to throw him off. But Gary seemed to be looking a bit more like his old self, with the belief that he could do big things. So he was the one. He was the standout for me, and someone who I think will be a real threat at the Worlds.
Yeah, and talking of the Worlds, Josh, and indeed the upcoming Players' Championship, it just seems to me that there's so many players who are in form or approaching form at just about the right end of the right part of the season, aren't they?
That's what you want. I think a lot of the players aim to try and peak for this time of year, in terms of maybe they're resting up for certain Pro Tours and trying to get their schedule exactly right so they can peak at the opportune time. And form, you could have had a disappointing year, but that goes out the window. Put the last 9 months or so to bed. If you want to turn up, this is the time to turn up. And that's what MVG will be thinking. That's what Gary Anderson will be thinking. They're proven winners. They know what it takes to win the big one. And you wouldn't put it past one of those two, putting a disappointing year behind them and winning the big one at the end.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's Josh's roundup of the Grand Slam of Darts. Many congratulations to Gerwyn Price, securing his third Grand Slam title in 4 years. And we wish him well for the rest of the season.
Hi, I'm Gerwyn Price, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, Josh, just following on from your Grand Slam of Darts wrap-up, as we mentioned at the top of the show, you had the opportunity to speak to Sky Sports favourite Wayne Mardle, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Always a pleasure to chat to Wayne, a great friend of the show, and he was in fine form, reflected on the Grand Slam, what's to come over the coming weeks, and he gave some really interesting insight into a lot of players, so really good to chat to Wayne.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Right, guys, I'm delighted here to be joined by a friend of the show and Sky Sports Darts expert, Wayne Mardle. Wayne, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, Josh. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Just reflecting really on what's been a fantastic 9 days of darts at the Grand Slam. It was a great tournament, wasn't it, Wayne?
Do you know what? I enjoy it so much more now I don't play in it. Or should I say, now I don't lose in it. It's a fabulous event. It really is. We know it was kind of started to kind of join the best of the PDC and the best of the BDO, but it's transformed now. It really is, and the quality is outrageous. But I'd like to give a mention to the youngsters and I mentioned them kind of live on air last evening before the final. They were such a bonus and a revelation for the tournament. Even Joe Davies, who was injured, we've got to give him a mention. But Bradley Brooks, Nathan Rafferty, Roby Johns coming to the fore now, and Rusty Jake, of course. Got to give them a go. And do you know what? Over the years, I think that some of those that we just mentioned will do some big things in the sport. Let's hope so.
Absolutely. I mean, they're a pleasure to watch this year, and like I say, a great experience for them. I think the format also helped, didn't it, in terms of they got 3 bites of the cherry at least with a group stage format.
Indeed, yeah, and it's important for the young guys. And do you know what? Not even the youngsters, even for the likes of Fallon and some lesser lights that don't qualify all the time, like Boris Kretschmar and Jim Williams as well. You see them, but not enough. But the pressure's on there for performance because you're playing the world's best. But it's not lose and go home. It's kind of right. Let's put things right. But yeah, it ends well for some and not so well for others. But you're right. They get a fair crack of the whip, and hopefully everyone enjoyed their experience.
And let's start now with a champ, Gerwyn Price. I mean, 3 Grand Slams in 4 years, but given the way he struggled earlier on in the tournament, in the group stages and the last 16, how impressed were you with the way he just seemed to ignite in the latter stages?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but Twitter kind of agreed that come the latter phase of the European events, the European Tour events, probably 6-8 months ago, he was getting better and better then. And it was like, he's found himself in the semi-final. He'll run riot now. And it's similar. It really is. He played a decent game against Ratajski, didn't he? But without much competition, which was unusual for Christoph. He just rolled over too easily, or got rolled over too easily. But he also struggled against Rafferty, and he also struggled big time against Martin Schindler.
Yeah.
So, it could have gone south for him. Could have gone badly for him. He could have been knocked out, but he wasn't. And against Bradley Brooks, in my opinion, he only got to perform well, or he only performed well when it was push come to shove, in or out. And he rose to the challenge after that, against Johnny Clayton, he was superb. And as we know, finals day, he was mustard. It's an odd one with him because he really does seem to find his feet and then grow into an event. And that's an art. That really is.
It was almost the very opposite with Michael van Gerwen at this tournament, because he came flying out the blocks in the group stages against Leitha, and the average against Joe Cullen was just ridiculous. And he had a great game against Gary. But what do you make of the performance against Michael Smith? Was it a lack of composure from Michael?
I thought from the very outset that maybe lack of composure, looked a bit panicked, didn't look particularly settled, all that wrapped up, and that means that you can't play with any freedom, you can't flow. And he struggled badly. He really did. And the thing with Michael, what I was kind of saying throughout the whole event, those bad games seem to have gone, and that was one that come back to bite him. I still can't work him out. Do you know what's odd? I still make him a real danger. I mean, massive danger for the World Championships.
Yeah.
I still think that the form's still there. I'm not gonna sort of cave in and think he can't win the World Championships, because I think he can. But when he's slightly off now, he's very, very beatable. Whereas he wasn't back in the day, was he? Just sort of 3-4 years ago, maybe even sort of earlier than that. But he's very much now one of a group of players that can win events rather than the man to beat. And I don't know if he's got to work harder. I don't know if he's got to do things different. I'll tell you what, Josh, I don't know how he feels internally. And, you know, some days where you've got all like the zest and all the vim and vigour in the world, and other days, do you know what? It's just not there.
Yeah.
I don't know how he feels, but I still see him as one of the best players in the world. I think he can win a world. But yeah, that was getting beat in this. You're right. He went from brilliant to out, whereas Price went the other way. He went from mediocre to brilliant. So yeah, that's the way to do it.
Another player who kind of was in and out was Peter Wright, because he had a really shoddy start to the tournament, but was fantastic against Fallon and Michael Smith. Sorry, but you've answered one of my questions, because I've just scrolled through your Twitter account and you've talked about the schedule for the Grand Slam. Because I was going to ask you about that, because obviously Gerwyn had an extra day's rest compared to Peter from the quarterfinals. Then obviously Peter was second on in the semis. I mean, it's a very taxing day, isn't it? 2 best of 31 matches on the same day.
Yeah, I just think I don't think it's the week running up to the finals day, personally. I might be wrong. We'll have to talk to those that have suffered over the years, and there has been a few that have suffered. They've said it's a lot. It really is a lot. The thing is with it is that a best of 31 on its own is a taxing game, especially if you're behind and you're chasing, or it's one of those hold of throw, and that continues break, and you can't get away from your opponent, and it's really taxing. And if you've got to do that and then have a break for your adrenaline to go, and then it's got to climb back up again, otherwise you can't perform.
Yeah,
that urgency will be gone, and then you've got to do it all again. I personally, even though with all the energy that I used to have within my game, I would find that really tough, really tough. And having played long games, I've played them consecutive, like 3-4 days running, and that can be tiring. But as for 2 in 1 day, you know what, just maybe there's cause for it, because the quarterfinals is the same format as the semi-finals and finals. Maybe we can just, when I say we, I'm on about like the world of darts and Sky and the PDC and the players and the officials can all get together and say, would this benefit the players? Would this benefit the broadcast? Would it benefit the standard? Would it just benefit the tournament?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then make it best of 21 in the quarterfinals instead of best of 31. It's only an idea. I'm thinking of the players and the broadcast first off, and I'll tell you what, the quarterfinal ticket will be You got to get in there quick for that, wouldn't you? All games on one night.
Absolutely, and we can't talk about the Grand Slam without mentioning one of the quarter-finalists, Fallon Sherrock. I mean, another history-making event for Fallon. What did you make of her achievements over the past week?
Right, I ended up holding my hands up after the Peter Wright game. I said I can't see her winning if Peter plays well. I can't see her kind of getting close if Peter plays well. Peter is a better player than Fallon Sherrock.
Yeah.
End of, basically. And got it wrong. Got it completely wrong. I had no idea that she would play or could play to that standard over 31 legs. Okay, it ends up going 29 legs. So if people want to be pedantic about it, over best of nine, I've always said she can beat anyone in the world. I don't care how good they are. I don't care what they play like. She can get them. We never learned anything about her against Mensur. We learned a lot about Mensur. But against Peter Wright, we learned that she is a brilliant player, along with everyone else in the event. And the way that Fallon goes about her business is that of a like a multiple world champion. It's like she knows what works, and she doesn't get overly excited to the point of it. She throws too quick or she slows down. Her routine and rhythm is perfect for her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change. It just doesn't change. And that's credit to her. No one influences her game. Whether she's winning, losing, drawing at the time, who cares? She just does her stuff. And do you know what? I started a bit of a Twitter argument. I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose, Josh. I was trying to antagonise. I had one of them moods on where I said I think she should be in the Premier League. Do you know what? I wasn't joking. I was just seeing the reaction. And my true belief is that if she was put in, it wouldn't be to the detriment of the tournament. It would be to the. It would be a positive, be a massive positive. Worldwide, it opens up to new audiences, and who knows where she takes the ladies' game? Who knows where she takes the men's game? We don't know. But I get it with the players. There's a lot of them that come back with saying it's unfair. A lot of the viewers who watch darts said it's unfair. You've got to earn the right, and I get that as well. Of course I do. But if the powers that be want to give her wild cards and put her in events, that's entirely up to them. But right now, there can be a case made for that she is the most famous darts player in the world.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who don't really watch much darts, and they were messaging me over the tournament, not about Gerwyn Price, Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright, but about Fallon Sherrock. I think she probably is the most famous right now.
Yeah, it's because she's good.
Yeah.
Yes, look, we say she, he, whoever it may be, whether it be Van Gerwen or Fallon, it's that people talk about them because they do things differently, or they are different, or it's something and someone that we've never seen before. We are seeing things from Fallon Sherrock that we've never seen from a ladies' player ever.
Yeah.
And I mean ever. Yes, women have competed against men for decades, but no one's made this impact, and no one has played to that standard. Just to put it into context, right? Michael Smith and Peter Wright, it was astonishing. It was an astonishing game. It was a brilliant game in the semi-finals. Fallon Sherrock's average was higher than Michael Smith's.
Yeah.
And people were saying that I was getting it on Twitter. I sometimes don't know why I open my mouth, because I do it and then think, why did I do that? Well, I'm such an idiot, and everyone knows that, of course. Fallon couldn't be part of a great game like this. She played better than Michael Smith.
Yeah.
Sorry. And it's one of those that there is still those disbelievers, and I'm not going to label them with other kind of more aggressive titles, but they still believe that a lady can't compete with the men, which we now know is absolute nonsense. So, yeah, I say, look, whatever the outcome is, whether Fallon's in the Premier League or not, then I'm okay with it. I'll be commentating on the best players in the world. I've got the best job in the world. But I think watching Fallon Sherrock is, it's a delight, and watching her perform to that level we want to see her do it more and more.
It's incredibly exciting to watch her. There's always a storyline when Fallon plays. But what would you say to some of those detractors you just mentioned? That I've seen some people say, I'm not going to name the players, but they kind of point to certain players and say, well, the Premier League's ruined their career. You know, that week in, week out, you're playing the best in the world, and it could do the same to Fallon. But she seems mentally so switched on. I don't think it would have that effect. What would you make of it?
Right, I'm just going to mention a few names. Gerwyn Price.
Yeah.
Finished the Premier League with 2 points on 1 year. Peter Wright has finished bottom and been eliminated twice. Gary Anderson's finished bottom.
Yep, Barney.
Glenn Durrant has finished bottom. The Premier League has found out many players, and it hasn't killed them off in the game.
No.
It just hasn't. Gerwyn Price has finished bottom. Peter Wright's finished bottom. Rob Cross, Gary Anderson, all these players have had nightmares. They're doing all right. They're doing all right. What they will do, the detractors, they will take it on a 1 year sample. And look, that's up to them. If Fallon gets put in the Premier League and has an absolute disaster, then so be it. I got annihilated in most Premier Leagues. And yet, 3 or 4 down the line, I have my best one.
Yeah.
So a lot gets made of Mark Webster. He played brilliant after that. Look, people remember what they want to remember. They have their own narrative that's built in, and it's the fact that it will ruin her. It will ruin her. Do you know what? Well, only time will tell. Time will tell. She may not be in the Premier League. If she goes to the World Championships and has a disaster, then she won't be in the Premier League. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And probably rightfully so. Whatever the decision is made, then so be it. But at this moment, as we are chatting right now, it's a massively hot topic. And there is a case to be made for and against. And do you know what? I'm kind of either or. Whatever it is the way it is. We've seen people before that have maybe deserved the Premier League spot and not got it. In a way, so what? There was a massive furore around Simon Whitlock a couple of years ago. Why isn't he in it? This is when I think he beat Van Gerwen in like everything, and when I mean everything, it was like 3 events.
Yeah.
And a year before that, or maybe a year after that, was Dave Chisnell. He should have been in it. Well, it's the way it is. People get a go. Some feel that they're hard done by, and certainly their fans. It's their fans that speak up, but the players need to understand. The bigger the sponsors and the more sponsors that come in, the more prize money they'll be playing for. So these players that slated Phil Taylor back in the day need to realise that without the likes of Phil Taylor, without these names, the sport doesn't grow to as big as it is today. And for it to grow further, if that's even possible, because it's huge, we need these players. We need Fallon Sherrocks and even Lisa Ashton's to push up the profile out of the normal demographic of who watches darts. Because let me tell you, it's not young girls and it's not women. They are not the majority. It's men. And if we can bring in another audience, and when I say we, I'm on about the world of darts, then fantastic. I'd love that. I'd love to see the alley pally full of 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old girls just shouting on Fallon Sherrock and buying merchandise and having a lemonade with their mum and dad. That'd be fantastic.
No, totally agree. Totally agree with you, Wayne. Just last question now. The World Championship, of course, it's on the horizon. Less than a month away. You'll be conducting the draw, I believe, on Sky Sports next Monday. Is that right?
Yes. So I'm going to take this opportunity to apologise in advance to anyone that hates their draw, because believe it or not, you'd be amazed. I get the odd text from players giving it. Are you kidding me? I'm like, what now? Oh, come on, what? I pulled a ball out and it happened to have number 72 on it. Come on. Jeez. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it's, and we say it every year, and for want of boring people and trotting out the same line, it will be the most amazing World Championships because the standard is growing year on year. The bottom are so near the top now that no one's, it's never a given. It's never a given, which makes it even harder to believe how somehow Price and Wright, numbers 1 and 2, managed to battle through that field in the Grand Slam. I'm not saying 1 and 2 won't reach the final of the World Championships, but they're going to have to fight really hard to get there.
I know you don't like to make many outright predictions before you've seen the draw, but after watching the Grand Slam, are there any players whose performances have changed your mind on them, whether it be either positively or negatively?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Dartistry, as you know. I've had dreams about it and I've had nightmares about it. I like him over a longer format.
Yep.
The shorter formats, he seems to panic sometimes, so I'm looking for a good run from him. These are kind of my outsiders I'm picking. Luke Humphries, for me, is a champion in waiting. So is Michael Smith. I know he gets a bad rep for kind of lacking composure when he needs it, but he can win anything at a canter. I think he might have to win it at a canter, to be fair. He's got a massive chance. You can't rule out anyone really in the top echelon, but I still think the winner comes from one who I'm going to call the big three, which is Price, Wright, and Van Gerwen. They've got the nous to navigate, especially over longer formats. But I'm going to throw someone in there now. I hadn't even considered, and I mean this. I was like studying what he was doing because it's kind of my job, and I've watched him play some brilliant darts, even though he ended up getting beat. And I think he can make the final, maybe even win it at a push. And don't know, I could be so wrong here. I think Gary Anderson looked fantastic.
He really did.
He did. I thought, as I was watching him, I'm thinking, are you kidding me, Gary? You're making a run now for the Worlds. Yeah. You've left it probably a bit like near off time, if you will, to find some form. But if you're going to find form, find it about now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have like £3 on him just in case, because I've got like a 1p and 2p jar. So
you're going to save up for it.
Yeah, I've saved up for the last 8 years, and I'm gonna plunge it all £3 and 4p on Gary Anderson just in case, because I thought he looked fantastic, especially against Van Gerwen. Especially, I know he lost the game, but he took nothing away and no negatives in defeat. Thought he was magnificent.
I mean, Gary always seems to come alive. He's one of these players, a bit like Barney in the past. The Wells just seem to inspire something different from them.
Yeah, do you want to hear a funny story about Barney?
Go on then.
If he wins the World Championships,
yes,
I'm absolutely sure, with the odds and the money I've put on him, I'll win more than him.
Oh, brilliant.
Do you know what? It's one of those romantic bets?
Yeah, of course, I get that.
You know when you're like, do you know what? This would be so funny for the world of darts if he retired,
came back and won it,
and ruled the world of darts again. And do you know what? If it happens, which it's a long shot, if it happens, I want part of it. I think I'll buy the island of Madagascar and fill it with all the stray dogs in the world.
Well, I'll tell you what, you won't be seen on Sky anymore. You'll be living it out, won't you?
Oh, my dreams are odder than most people's. But look, I don't think he'll win it. It's just one of those things that you get in your head, and it's like, if he does, I want part of this. But on a serious note, I believe it'll be one of the top three, and maybe some of the others I've mentioned. But I certainly wouldn't rule out Gary Anderson to make the final for the second straight year, and maybe even win his third. Who knows? Johnny
Clayton, maybe could he contend?
I completely forgot about Johnny. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yes, of course he can. Do you know what? Because he went out and we haven't spoken about him in the last 4 days, I've kind of forgot that the ferret existed. I apologise, Johnny. Of course he can. He's got that level, hasn't he? And Price kind of just got the better of him. He still had his 99, Johnny Clayton, in that game, in a game he seemingly didn't play particularly well in. So, yeah, of course he can. Of course.
Well, it should be a fantastic event, Wayne. I'm looking forward to seeing you there, hopefully. And like I say, if Barney does win, enjoy Madagascar.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'll see you there, Josh, and you can bring in the mince pies, pal.
Indeed. Pleasure to chat to you, Wayne. Many thanks, mate, for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks for listening to my ramblings. Cheers.
Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry, Josh's Dartistry.
Well, there you go. What can only be described, Josh, as a buoyant Wayne Mardle. I thought he was in a great mood when you spoke to him, and seemed like he really enjoyed the tournament.
He was, yeah. I mean, Wayne's always a bundle of energy. He just absolutely loves the sport, and I think that comes across in his commentary. So, yeah, really enjoyed chatting to him. Also liked his revelation about buying Madagascar if Barney wins the Worlds.
Well, I thought he was, when you were chatting to him about that, I thought he was either going to say, Josh, do you want to come with me? Or Josh, I'll send you a postcard, one of the two.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm scared of dogs, aren't I? So being with a load of stray dogs in Madagascar could be a recipe for disaster.
One of the things I did want to pick up, Josh, from the interview that you were having a chat with him was about the format, particularly the sort of latter stages and how it sort of, there might be a way that of looking at that, the PDC in future, just for the benefit of not just the players, but the viewing audience and darts as a whole. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more for me and where you sort of stand on that and what Wayne was trying to say?
Yeah, because we're used to, in ITV tournaments, we're used to seeing maybe 2 or 3 games played on a day because it's over a 2 or 3 day event. But on Sky, I think the Grand Slam's the only event, the only individual major where you have 2 games, like the semis and the final, played on one day.
Yeah.
For the Worlds, the match play, the Grand Prix, it's just the final. That's the showpiece. And it's such a long format, the Grand Slam of darts. You're playing first to 16 legs. So you think Peter Wright had won his game, came off at around about 4 p.m. The adrenaline after winning that game, he must have been bouncing. You then got to come down from that, get yourself ready to go again at 7 o'clock. I think the Grand Slam is such a great event, such a prestigious event. I think it deserves its own final, just on an individual day. And I understand the restrictions in terms of the tournament, and maybe it can be a case of starting it one day earlier. You could have it starting on a Friday night. I think Wayne suggested shortening the format for the quarterfinals. Yeah,
because the quarters, the semis and the final, they're all first to 16, aren't they? Yeah,
that's been the case since it started, I believe. But there is a case potentially to making it first to 11, like Wayne said, having them all on one night. Or you could have a double session on the Friday maybe and have 2 games on the Friday afternoon, 2 on the Friday evening, semi Saturday, final Sunday. It's something I think the PDC should explore, because it's not the first time we've seen a Grand Slam final disappoint a little bit, because I think obviously Peter Wright is about 15 years older than Gerwyn Price.
Yeah.
And you think Peter played a long and taxing game against Fallon on the Saturday, while Gerwyn Price was in his hotel room with his feet up.
Yeah.
then Peter had a longer and tougher semi-final than Gerwyn Price had, and he played it 2 hours later. So the odds were stacked against Peter Wright a little bit. So I think it'll benefit the tournament, because it was such a great event. The world's top 2 playing against each other, and taking nothing away from Gerwyn, because he was fantastic, but it was a bit of a disappointment, wasn't it, the final? It was very one-sided.
Yeah, and when you compare it to some of the games that built up in the, whether it was the group stages, the last 16 quarters or whatever, yes, in comparison to some of those games, maybe a little bit, yeah.
So it's certainly something I think the PDC will look at, because, like I say, it's a very tough day. I think it's unprecedented. We've seen at the ITV events, like this weekend, you had the quarters in the afternoon, the semis and final in the evening, but they're first to 10 or first to 11. So they're shorter matches. And even then, we see at those events, players often struggle 3 games in a day. Best of 31 legs twice in a day. It's tough going, mentally and physically. So it's something I would like to see addressed, and maybe it will be.
Wayne also mentioned, Josh, about how the sort of Grand Slam has had to rejuvenate itself and reinvent itself a little bit as a tournament and find its identity again. Obviously, in previous years, we've been used to sort of, BDO players coming in, and we've sat around this table and spoken about, in the past how BDO players are going to fare in this particular competition and making that step up. It's something that we've seen regularly now, because, we've had the Wolfies, we've had the Fallons, and it's probably a conversation that is in the past now, but it is a different tournament now, isn't it, that we don't have that sort of that element to it. And I don't think it's poorer for that. I think I think rejuvenated is probably the right word that Wayne's used there.
100% agree. I think in the early stages of the Grand Slam, I loved seeing the BDO players compete in it, because I think the BDO were a stronger organisation. They had greater strength in depth. Towards the last couple of years, without being disrespectful, besides maybe Glenn Durrant when he was still a BDO player, they didn't have a lot to offer. No. And even some of their best players were still getting beaten quite resoundingly. So I think it's great. It's given the youngsters like Bradley Brooks, Nathan Rafferty, from the World Youth Championship win, Nathan Rafferty on the development tour, both got the opportunity to play 3 games and get 3 big games under their belt, and they played superbly well. We obviously saw Fallon and Lisa. We haven't really talked about Lisa.
No. I feel a bit
disappointing
sorry
her.
for Lisa because she is a wonderful, wonderful ladies darts player who is now playing these sort of games and these sort of competitions against some of the best players in the world. But it is Fallon that's still in the headlines, isn't it?
Yeah, strange because when they played in the women's series, I think Fallon won 6 of the 12 events. Lisa won 5.
Yeah.
But Lisa beat Fallon 5 times. I think Fallon only beat Lisa twice.
Yeah.
So on the floor, Lisa's
Got the edge.
very much are equal, if not
Yeah.
got the edge. But put her on the TV stage and Lisa's still capable of playing, and she had a tougher group in fairness. She had Michael van Gerwen and Joe Cullen and John Henderson. But Fallon just seems to come alive, whereas Lisa's not quite able to replicate that because we know she can average 100 herself. She's done it on the women's series, she's done it on the Pro Tour. But yeah, Fallon's just a little bit stronger. But as we were talking about, I really like the new element in terms of giving the youngsters a chance to flourish. Obviously, players from the women's series. I think it's almost found its purpose now because I think we got a little bit lost with the BDO for a couple of years. But I don't think the tournament's any weaker for having these youngsters in.
No, I think you're right. Well, listen, great to hear Wayne on the show again. Thanks very much to Wayne Mardle for taking the time and having a chat with Josh. We always appreciate and really enjoy what you have to say, Wayne. So thanks for coming on, and you are always welcome on the Josh's Dartistry podcast.
I feel happy, won't you call me on the telephone? In the morning, won't you call me on the telephone?
Call the boys on 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329 and leave them a message.
This is Luke Humphreys and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, Josh, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Players' Championships finals, and they're probably actually taking place as this podcast goes out, aren't they? So, November the 26th to November the 28th. Give us a little preview, buddy.
So it's 64-player tournament, a very big tournament. It's the top 64 purely from the 30 Players' Championship events that are held in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's not based on the world rankings or the order of merit, purely on how they perform on the Pro Tour. So we've got Jose de Souza. He's a top seed due to his consistency on the floor this year. He's up against Devon Peterson in a cracking game. But we've got, I think, Gerwyn Price is second seed. Peter Wright third. We've got Van Gerwen down in seventh. So it's a really unpredictable tournament because you've got a lot of players clashing in the first round who wouldn't ordinarily clash. I mean, the tie that immediately jumps out for me is Stephen Bunting against Gary Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's ranked about 42nd on the Players' Championship Order of Merit, which is ludicrous when you think how good he is. But that's mainly because he didn't always play in all the events, and also when he did play, he wasn't particularly good. But that's a cracking tie. We've got the likes of Ryan Searle playing Simon Whitlock in the first round. As I mentioned there, De Souza against Devon Peterson. The likes of Nathan Aspinall against Jeff Smith, Wade against Ricky Evans. One of the ties of the round for me is Adrian Lewis against Kim Huybrechts because Kim is having a real resurgence at the moment. So some really good games, and it's always unpredictable because, as I've said, you'll have the likes of, Van Gerwen or Wright potentially clashing in the last 8 as opposed to the last 4 or the final. So unpredictable, but should be a really good event.
Do you know what I like about this tournament, Josh, particularly in the early stages? You have the 2 stages.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got the main stage, but then there's always plenty of action going on over on stage 2, which we get regular updates on, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's even better in the UK Open because you've got about multiple stages. You've got stage 3, 4. I know Jordan, our friend of the show, Jordan, he went to the UK Open, I think, the year before we had the lockdown. And he said that was a fantastic event. And it's a great atmosphere on the second stages. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've gone to Minehead before, and they often recommend the second stage as a better atmosphere and some better matches. So I'll be following both over the weekend. I'll be watching, obviously, the coverage on ITV4, but also watching PDC TV because they're streaming stage 2. So you have no excuse to miss a dart. You can watch both stages at the same time.
We don't go very long in this podcast, Josh, without talking about Raymond van Barneveld. What do you know about his opponent? I note that he's on the main stage in the evening against Mike Kuvenhoven. What do you know about Mike?
Yeah, fellow Dutchman. He won his tour card not this year, last year. He's had a much better season this year, and they've actually played twice on the floor this year, John, and Mike has beaten him both times.
Really?
One game was a cracker. I think Barney lost with 100 average, 6-5. The other one was his worst performance of the year, about an 82 average. So Mike will be confident. He's beaten him twice. He knows what to do. But it's also a winnable game for Barney. But if he were to win that, he would play MVG in all likelihood in the second round, which would be the first time they've met since Barney's returned. So he's got a good chance probably to progress, but I don't think he'll get any further than the second round.
Neil, another tournament, another format, as Josh mentioned there. It's not based on the order of merit. It's how they've performed in the Players' Championship events over the last year. And again, it's something different. We go from the Grand Slam, obviously, which is done a certain way, to the Players' Championship. So always variety, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, this one. So players getting rewarded for consistency throughout the year on the Pro Tour event. So, yeah, I've said before, I'm all for different formats, and this is just another tournament that gives us that.
Okay, gents, it wouldn't be a Players' Championship preview without getting some odds. So here is What Are the Odds?
Cool, what are the odds?
Okay, pray silence as I hand you over to resident odds checker, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you, John. Okay, looking ahead to the weekend's Players' Championship. Odds brought to us by Sky Bet. Okay, the main market. Josh, who do you think they would have as the favourite?
I would say Gerwyn Price.
Gerwyn Price is the 7-2 favourite. Just shading Michael van Gerwen at 4-1. And then Johnny Clayton, 11-2. Mm-hmm. Peter Wright, 9-1. Dimitri van der Burr, 14-1. So come on then, hit me. You always throw some names at me.
What, in terms of an outsider?
Who do you want to know? Gary Anderson, 50-1. Okay, he's got Stephen Bunting in the first round, 50-1. Massive odds.
Great. I'm just looking at Gary's draw, though. The way his quarter's set out, I think if he wins that, he'll probably get Dirk van Duijvenbode. And then he's due to face Van Gerwen in the last 16. So that's probably a reflection of those odds. But
that's a huge price.
Gary's not 50-1 in any tournament, even if he's only got 2 darts. Joe Cullen, I think, is due a good run. What's his odds, Neil? Sorry, Joe, I completely jinxed you there, mate. He'll be gone by the time this podcast goes out, won't he?
40-1.
40-1. There you go. Josh, I want to draw your attention to a tweet you made earlier. Our friends over at the Weekly Darts Cast this afternoon, they put a tweet out, Players' Championship final starting tomorrow afternoon. Let's have your predictions on how it will play out. So they were asking for a winner, top 8 seed most in danger, tie of the round, and one to watch. Now, tie of the round, you've already said you're really looking forward to Bunting v Anderson.
Yep.
And you also put that you think Van Gerwen might sneak this. But the two I want to talk to you about is your top 8 seed most in danger first. You said Ryan Searle. Why are you thinking that?
Yeah, it's no reflection on how Ryan's playing. He's been in brilliant form.
Yeah.
And he's a quality player. And I still think he will win. But he's got Simon Whitlock, who Whitlock's had a poor year on the Pro Tour. I mean, 60th on the order of merit for a player of his calibre.
Yeah. He's
poor. But I'm looking at the draw, and I looked earlier, and I see all the 8 seeds winning. It might not happen. But I think out of all of them, I think Whitlock's got the more potential to, especially over a best of 11 legs format.
Neil, have you got a price there for Ryan Searle? Have you got that available?
40-1 as well.
40,
same as Joe Cullen.
40-1, same as Joe Cullen. And the other part of your tweet, Josh, was one to watch going forward. Hybrex you've gone for there.
He's been playing some superb darts over the last couple of months. Really, really high level. Seems to have got his hunger and his aggression back. Got A.D. Lewis in the first round. Tough game. If he comes through that, he could have Peter Wright in the second round. But I've got a feeling he could go on a bit of a run.
100-1.
I'm tipping Hybrex now to beat Adrian Lewis and Peter Wright. That's a prediction.
So if he did that, what round would that take him to?
Last 16.
So he's 18-1 to make the quarterfinals. So 3 wins.
Sorry, Kim.
Neil, any other standout prices there? Anyone there who seems a bit long?
Well, I think it'd be wrong to end this without mentioning Raymond van Barneveld.
Of course.
So 150-1 for Barney. 100-1. You've got some players in there. You've got Daryl Gurney at 80-1. You've got Ian
former champion Daryl Gurney here.
Ian White 100-1. Hybrex, as we've said, 100-1. Also, you've got the Wizard at 100, and also Bunting as well. Big odds for some good players.
Indeed, the depth now is just crazy. You're looking at Mensur Silovic, 52nd seed. Kim Hybrex, as I mentioned, 34th. Steve Beaton, 47th seed. So many experienced, established players, quite low down in the rankings this year, and some big players didn't even make it. Jelle Klassen's quite fortunate because we'll talk about that later on, but one of the players has pulled out, unfortunately, after testing positive with COVID. So Jelle Klassen's got a reprieve, and he's got Vincent van der Voort in the first round. So that could be a real cracker as well, all Dutch affair.
Josh, just going back to that tweet from the Weekly Darts Cast, they rather tongue-in-cheek called it the Kevin Painter Trophy, didn't they?
I must have missed that. You pointed it out to me there. But yeah, Kevin Offley famously won this event. His only PDC major win. That got him a place in the Premier League. So he's got very happy memories of Minehead. Or maybe it wasn't even Minehead. I'm not too sure.
And now, aside from players' odds, have you got any odds on things like, 9-dart finishes, anything like that?
Yeah, again, so Sky Bet do offer something on that. So for no 9-dart finish. So do you think there'll be one, Josh?
Yes.
13-8 for a 9-dart finish. 4-9 for there not to be a 9-darter. So the bookies think it's unlikely.
There's not been many. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there's been too many here before. So I always say, every tournament someone asks me, I always say yes. There hasn't been one for a while. So we are due one.
Yep. So 9-dart odds, 13-8 if you fancy it.
Okay, let's go around the table. I want you to tell me who's going to win. Josh, you going with Michael van Gerwen?
Michael van Gerwen, yep.
Michael van Gerwen is Josh's pick. Neil?
Gerwyn Price.
Gerwyn Price for Neil. I'm going to go with James Wade to win.
Shock.
Got to back James. I have got to back James. Well, there you go. That is our preview of the Players' Championships between November the 26th and the 28th. Of course, taking part in Minehead. We wish all the players good luck, and I'm sure it's sure to be a great tournament. Josh, where can people tune in and watch the Players' Championship?
The coverage begins on ITV4 from, I believe, 12:45 tomorrow afternoon. It runs through until Sunday night. But as I've mentioned earlier, Stage 2 is going to be televised on pdc.tv. So if you've got a PDC account, you can obviously log in. If not, just subscribe and you'll get a pass for the weekend, I believe. So, yeah, no excuse to miss a single dart.
Absolutely. Good luck to all taking part, and we look forward to watching. Okay, let's briefly move away from the Players' Championship finals odds. I'm sure after the last week's action in the Grand Slam of Darts now, I'm sure the odds have probably changed for Ali Pally, haven't they? Have you got any updates for us?
Yeah, I have, and again, it's Sky Bet bringing us the odds. Always amazes me how these have changed over the past couple of years. So again, we've got Gerwyn Price as favourite, 10-3. So we've gone from an odds-on favourite in Michael van Gerwen for every tournament to now the favourite being 10-3, which I think shows how open they actually think it is. Van Gerwen 9-2. Again, I think that's the longest he's been since we've been doing the show. Johnny Clayton, no surprise, 6-1. Peter Wright 8-1. Dimitri van den Berg 11s. And Jose de Sousa, 12-1.
Give me a price, Neil, for the lady in form, Fallon Sherrock.
She is 100-1.
There you go. It's not a bad price. Not a bad price.
I think she was in the thousands at Ali Pally when she had her run 2 years ago.
Yeah, she was. So 100-1. If you think any of those players will make the final, you can get each way odds of one half the odds. So 100-1, you get 50-1 on Fallon to make the final.
Bit of value there, bit of value.
There is a bit of value. Kim Hybrex, you've mentioned, Josh, 200-1, so a big price for Kim.
Yeah, I don't fancy him for Ali Pally, only for Minehead.
Okay.
Only for Minehead, Neil.
And Barney, 150s.
150-1 for Barney. How do you think he'll fare this year, Josh, back at Ali Pally?
I think he'll hope he'll want to go all the way, but I think if he gets a couple of wins under his belt, he'll be good. I mean, he's lost the last 2 years their first match, having not done for about 8 years. The Labanausis game still leaves me mentally
still rankles,
scarred.
yeah.
Although Labanausis now is a top player. Darren Young, his retirement was a bit of a sad state of affairs, wasn't it? So he'll be wanting to banish those demons with a win. I think he should get through his first match. He's better than all the international qualifiers, but Fallon Sherrock is one that I think he will want to avoid, and I think everyone will want to avoid, because not only is she a world-class player, I think everyone in the crowd will want him to
They always get on her side, don't they? She's had tremendous support. I mean,
if she was playing Bambi will be getting booed in there.
Yeah, I know. Long may it continue. But she does benefit from the support. Josh, I'm going to preempt one of our news items now, so apologies, but we'll come back to it afterwards. Neil, give me a price on Paul Lim to win the Worlds at Ali Pally, because he has qualified.
That's a fairy tale.
You will get good value at 1,000-1.
My word. 1,000-1. Come on, Paul. Come on the limb.
The value bet again for me, Gary Anderson, 28-1. Michael Smith, 33s.
Both very good odds, I think.
Okay, well, if you're looking for somewhere to place your money for the World Championships, there you go. Hopefully Neil has given you a few ideas.
This is Jackie Oatley, and you're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Hi, this is Neil from the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Thanks for checking out the show, which you can download at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and all your favourite podcast providers. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, Josh's Dartistry Darts Podcast. Thanks for listening.
This is Dan Dawson, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Right then, it's that time. Let's do Challenge Josh. Josh. Yes, that's right. It's time for Challenge Josh. If you are not familiar with the show, this is the portion of the show where we test Josh on all things darts. We test his darting knowledge with 15 questions. Josh, obviously, freelancer for Sky Sports and blogger and journalist, and runs his own darts website and has done for years, and very, very, very heavily involved in darts, and his knowledge is incredible. So once again, we expect 15 out of 15 from Josh on this. Yes, Josh?
Build them up and knock them down.
Build them up and knock them down. But before that, please let me introduce you to a resident quizmaster, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you, John. I know it's the favourite part of the show for you as well, where we try and make him as uncomfortable as damn possible.
Yes.
So, Josh, big thing in darts at the moment, the big news, what is it?
Fallon Sherrock.
Fallon Sherrock. No matter what the subject matter is, it could be Josh Gorton.
I know.
And he'd still grimace.
I wouldn't get 15 there.
Turn his nose up.
So, we are going to talk about the Queen of the Palace,
yes,
Fallon Sherrock.
I hope question one isn't what is her nickname.
Oh, that's a good point.
Well,
I knew it.
She's got more than one nickname, though, isn't she? Because she wasn't the Queen of the Palace before she became Queen of the Palace. So let's not touch on that. Let's see if it comes up. But that's her new nickname, isn't it, Josh? The Queen of the Palace.
Her one and only nickname.
Her one and only nickname. Okay. Okay, Neil, you ready?
I am ready. So I wouldn't say... Normally we grade it and we start with easier ones and get more difficult. This is a bit of a mixed bag. Okay. So I think you've got a fairly even set of questions in terms of difficulty. So let's get started.
Here we go with question number 1.
How old is Fallon?
27.
Yeah, straight in. Not even a flutter there.
No,
Neil, straight in with
it.
No,
I think last time. Do you remember last time? I think first question, or was it second question? He was like, "I'm in an R."
It's because I've written the 27-year-old about 8 articles for Sky over the last week.
I see. So maybe it is graded, so the easier ones are up front. Because I think number 2 as well, you'll find very easy.
Okay, let's have number 2.
What is Fallon's walk-on music?
Uh-oh.
It's Last Friday Night, so by Katy Perry, or Friday Night.
Yeah, Last Friday Night by...
You know music's not my strong point.
Well, you got the track and the artist. I'm quite impressed.
Yeah, I would have... Had he have just got the track, I would have asked for the artist as well. But yes, you're right. Last Friday Night by Katy Perry. Well done. 2 out of 2.
Good start. Let's have question number 3, please, Neil.
When did Fallon first appear at the BDO World Championship? We should do this live stream.
We should do this live stream
because it will add so much more value.
There was a wince, Neil. There was a big wince. He's not happy with this question at all.
I've gotten one in my head, but I don't know if it's right. I've got a feeling. My theory is I could be completely wrong on this. My theory is she got to the final in her second appearance. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. You're
looking at me like I know. I mean, I've got no idea. It's his challenge, Josh, not challenge, John.
I could be wrong, but I'm working on the theory that she got to the final in 2015, so I'm going to say 2014.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
2014. 2014 pulls it out the final.
He does indeed. It was 2014. Well done.
Yeah, a good process of elimination there, Josh. Well done. Well thought out.
Okay.
I think sometimes, it's a bit of an act.
Do you think?
I think he does know, but he just wants to dramatise it, which is why I think we need to go down the live stream route.
Okay, let's move on.
Faith for radio, Neil.
Neil, can we have question number 4?
Yep. Okay, so talking about those BDO World Championships in 2014, do you know who she lost to and in what round? In fact, who did she lose to in 2014?
I don't have a clue.
He doesn't have a clue. I bet he gets it right.
No.
It's a fairly small pool of players to pick from.
Yeah, but it's only a 16-woman tournament, but there's still 15 potential wrong answers.
Yeah, but it's not like the same as the men's, is it? Where it could be a possible,
She lost to Lisa in the 2015 final. I don't think she lost to Lisa. I feel like it was Anastasia or Dita. I don't know why.
So it was the quarter-final.
I'm going to guess Anastasia Dobromislova.
Incredible work. Absolutely
It's an
incredible.
act.
Oh, it could be one of 16, but I'll still get it right. Unbelievable.
It just came to me at the end.
Yeah. I think you're right, Neil. I'm leaning towards your method of thinking. It's all a bit of an act, isn't it? Right, that's 4 out of 4. Anastasia Bromoslova from Russia with love. Let's move on then. Question number 5.
In 2015, the BDO World Championship, Fallon beat Dobromoslova in the semi-final 2-1. What record did she set during that match?
Was it the most 180s hit in a women's world championship match?
Yes, it was. Most 180s ever set. What was the number, Neil?
Or let's see if he knows, shall we?
Yeah. What was the number, Josh?
It was either 5 or 6. I think it might have been 6.
No, so what? No, so there's a thing here. So it
She
was
set one in the final.
It
didn't she,
was
as well?
5 180s in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And then she hit 6 in the final when, as you
Lisa.
rightly said earlier, that she lost to Lisa Ashton 3-1. Well done. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Okay, I haven't tripped him up yet in the first third of the questions. Let's move on into question number 6.
So I think these next few you'll fly through. So 2020, Fallon was a contender, as we spoke about earlier, in the Premier League. Who did she play and what was the score?
Glen Durrant, 6-all.
Yeah, fresh in the memory, no hesitation whatsoever. Yeah, so she's had obviously Premier League experience. Josh obviously being one of the contenders, so it'd be interesting to see how she gets on if she was playing, week after week after week.
Yeah, she played in the World Series events, which are in front of big crowds. So yeah, I don't think she'll be phased at all.
And Glen Durrant there, obviously, you mentioned that. I'm really hoping for a return to form for Glen. If it's not before the end of the year, then certainly next season.
He's obviously not in the Players' Championship finals because he didn't have a good enough year on the tour, but that's given him a little bit more time now. He obviously wasn't at the Grand Slam. He's had probably a couple of months by the time Ali Pali comes around to work on his game and try and hopefully mentally reset. So yeah, I hope he has a good end, Glenn. He's a lovely guy. He deserves it.
Absolutely. Neil, let's move on to question number 7.
Okay, on the 17th of December 2019, Fallon became the first woman to beat a man at the PDC World Championships. Who did she beat and what was the score?
Ted Everts and 3-2.
Yeah, she beat, of course, famously Ted Everts 3-2. And Josh, what a night that was! Absolutely fantastic. But who knew what was to come a couple of days later against Mensa?
No, I was there. It was an amazing atmosphere. I mean, I think a lot of people thought Mikuru Suzuki was in the world, had a better chance of winning, and she almost did. She was, I think, one leg away. But to see Fallon play the way she did and get that win, yeah, a moment I'll never forget. Yeah, and it was kind of the thing that's kick-started what we're seeing now, wasn't it? Absolutely. I mean, it's almost a distant memory now, given what she's gone on to achieve, not only at that World, but at the Grand Slam and other tournaments since. So, will we see a repeat this year? Who knows?
And I thought Ted was brilliant that night as well. Do you know what I mean? He gave the plaudits to Fallon, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. He was very, very gracious. It would have been easy for him to just kind of sulk off stage and get out there, but he was really, really gracious and, yeah, classy guy.
Okay, Neil, if we're ready, let's move on to question number 8.
Okay, similar theme, same year. Who knocked Fallon out of those World Championships and what was the score?
Chris Dobie, 4-2.
Yeah, again, very, very little hesitation. 4-2 to Chris Dobie. But obviously, as we mentioned there, it was a great year for Fallon on that stage and a very, very steep learning curve, I'm sure, experience that she's drawing on now to take her game forward. Let's move on, Janelle, to question number 9.
Okay, change of theme.
Oh, here we go.
And we're going to go to the Pro-Zeben Pro-Am doubles.
Oh, my goodness. Sorry. Hang on. We go. Where are we going? And do I need a passport?
Well, I knew the answer to this, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't. So Pro-Zeben, I guess, is Pro-7.
Okay.
Fallon was invited to participate in the German channel Pro-Zeben's Pro-Am double event.
Oh, I do remember this, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, I do remember this.
So other players playing: Phil Taylor, Michael van Gerwen, Gerwyn Price, Max Hopp, and the newly crowned world champion Peter Wright. Who did Fallon partner with?
I think I remember this.
I knew the answer. I remembered it.
I'll know it when you say it. The name escapes me, so I'm pretty sure it was a footballer, and I'm pretty sure it was an Italian footballer. I might be wrong. That could be embarrassing if I can't remember the name.
You know what he'll do? He'll pull it out the bag in a minute, won't he?
I ain't pulling this one out. I'm not pulling this one out the bag. I cannot think for the life of me. I'm pretty sure it was an Italian footballer.
Did Van der Vaart play?
I think he might. Yeah, I think he might have done.
It's not him.
No. Thank you, Neil.
Well, he's not Italian for a start. But, yeah.
I'm going to have to pass. I cannot think of a name.
Is that your final answer? You're not even going to. I mean, of all your football knowledge, you're not even going to throw a name of a.
Yeah, of all his football knowledge.
Well, he's got some football knowledge.
I know it wasn't Andrea Pirlo or Mario Balotelli. So I could be wrong, but no. Italian football, but I can't think of a name.
So if you're going to pass, I'm afraid that is incorrect. Neil, I think I might know. I'm going to have a stab.
Go on then.
Was it Luca Toni?
It was Luca.
Hey! A point for John on Challenge Josh that
Well
Josh
done,
didn't
John.
know.
Was he Italian?
Yeah.
Italian
very much
striker.
So. Yeah, very much
Yeah,
so.
I just couldn't think of the name. I'd never have got that.
Good question.
Yeah, it was a great question. That was a great, and the fact I got it right as well. I'm over the moon with that.
Well done, John.
I'm over the moon. Okay, Josh. So we've had 9 questions, and unfortunately, you've dropped a point there, mate. So you are 8 out of 9. It won't be the full house this week, unfortunately. But let's see if you can finish it off with aplomb. Let's move on to question number 10.
At the WDF Europe Cup final.
He's frowning already.
In 2011.
Oh, for goodness. 2011?
When Fallon represented England youth.
Yeah.
Who did she pair with?
Her sister. God, what's her name?
Now, if Josh is correct with that, this might come down to how tough the quizmaster's going to be. But okay, let's see what happens.
I've got a feeling her sister's name begins with F. I don't know, Felicia.
You're going to go with Felicia. Is that your final answer? That is correct. Neil, give us the details.
So it was her sister, Felicia. And there's another notable thing about Fallon and her sister. They are
twins.
They are twins.
Are they really? Well, there we go. Just out of curiosity, Neil, if Josh wasn't able to pull the name out there, would you have accepted her sister?
I think so, because he's already got one wrong.
Yeah,
the comfort blanket.
Your work is done here. Okay, well done. So that's 9 out of 10. We have got 5 questions left, and I know Neil would dearly love to trip you up at least one more time. So on that basis, let's move on to question number 11.
What was Fallon's first major BDO title win?
Okay, he's making notes on his pad, scribbling some notes down. I like how at the top of his page, Neil, he has actually written Challenge Josh at the top. Very efficient is Josh. I'd love to see some of the notes he makes when he's doing the live blogging for Sky. Surprised he hasn't underlined it. Yeah, Josh. Neil, just for me, because I've been waffling, can you repeat the question for me, please, Neil?
What was Fallon's first major BDO title win?
First major BDO.
She hasn't... Again, I don't know this. She hasn't won the Worlds yet. I think it's either the Masters, the World Darts Trophy, or the Zuiderdoin Masters, or the Finder Darts Masters, whatever they call it now. So it's a 1 in 3 shot. If in doubt, go for the middle one. I'm going to go for the World Darts Trophy.
That is incorrect, Neil. You've tripped him up again.
So in 2015, Fallon was the winner.
Finder Darts Masters?
Of the women's Zuiderdoin or Finder's Masters.
Went for the wrong one, Josh.
Oh no, 1 in 3 shot.
Unfortunate. Well, that unfortunately means you are 2 wrong, which is 9 out of 11. Oh, it's a bit of a rescue mission now. And knowing Neil, he likes to keep a couple of grenades in his back pocket as well. So this could get ugly towards the end. But never mind. Let's move on to question number 12.
What is Fallon's other job outside of darts?
Hairdresser.
Yeah, she is a hairdresser. Well done.
Yeah, mobile hairdresser.
Does she still do that now, even now?
I don't know.
I'm not too sure. I'd be surprised now, but I heard you with a cut above the rest.
For goodness sake.
Moving on.
I feel sorry for his colleagues. Do you know what I mean? I bet he's throwing these out
all the
time in the office, isn't he? Because you do put quite some bad jokes on Twitter and Facebook as well, Josh.
Oh, some shocking ones, yeah.
So apologies to anyone that gets caught up in that. Anyway, it's a correct question for a change. That is 10 out of 12. Let's move on. Unlucky for some. Question number 13.
When did Fallon Sherrock make her senior debut? So when was her first professional appearance in the BDO?
So not in a youth event. Any event?
First professional senior event.
Senior as opposed to junior. Bum, bum, bum. Neil, could you just reread the question one more time for me, please?
So when did Fallon make her debut in a senior BDO event?
So I'm assuming you're just looking for a year.
Correct.
Okay. Because I could never tell with you. You probably want the 1st of June.
Well, we have to see. We have to see how well he does with the answer to see how much detail we actually need.
Oh dear, I don't know.
Talk us through your thinking, Josh.
So we've had 2014. We're at 2014 in the World Championships.
Yeah, and you've mentioned there's 2011 with her twin sister.
Yeah.
Although that was...
So somewhere in between there, you would think, yeah?
You think so? Although you could be steering me down a garden path. It could be like 2009 or something.
Quite possibly.
Well, she's 27 now, so...
Yeah, that was question one. We've moved on from that. No. We're not giving you any more points for that one.
I'm just saying, realistically, how old has she been? I don't know.
Young. The kids these days.
Well, Bo Greaves. Look at Bo Greaves. She was 14 when she made her World Championship debut.
Absolutely. It's going to be a bit of a stab in the dark, this one, isn't it?
It's going to be a stab in the dark.
Educated guess, I reckon.
I think he's got a 50-50 chance.
I think he'll get it right because that's what he does. But
Well,
let's see.
Not always. 2012.
I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? All the flannel.
This show could be 45 minutes quicker if you didn't do all the faffing.
Go with your gut instinct. Well done, Josh. That is correct. Well pulled out of the fire. That means you are currently 11 out of 13 with just 2 questions remaining. Here we go with question number 14.
So I'm now going to read you a quote from a darts player, and I want you to tell me who recently made this comment. I don't see her or another woman winning a televised tournament anytime soon.
Vincent van der Voort.
That is correct. Vincent van der Voort said that. I thought you were going to say that was from our WhatsApp group. And that comment was made by Josh Gorton.
No, it was Vincent van der Voort.
When did he say that?
Quite recently. It was reported on dartsnews.com. I think he was speaking to Sport News in the Netherlands. So
to be fair, I don't see Vincent van der Voort winning a televised.
No, exactly. I think Fallon Sherrock's got more chance than he has. So I was quite surprised when I read that, to be honest. But yeah, Sports News in the Netherlands, I think he was talking to at the time.
Well, there we go. Well, she keeps continuing to break that glass ceiling, Josh, and I'm sure she's only going to go from strength to strength. That is 12 out of 14. We've got one question left to go. Don't let me down, Neil. Let's hope this one is full of dynamite. Here we go with question number 15.
No, it's very straightforward. So how many has he got?
He's got 12 out of 14.
Okay, it's a very straightforward question. So we're looking back.
Here we go.
That means it's an absolute nightmare.
And it's also a test of your listening skills. Sorry. So I've already mentioned this once. So on the night that Fallon beat Ted Efforts, obviously I think everyone's joking that it's going to be a quiz question in the future. Can you give me the date of that match?
17th of December.
Well done. With the day of the week.
Oh, you're having a laugh.
You were there.
Yeah, but I don't remember.
Come on.
So I'd already mentioned that it was the 17th of December. What year?
2019.
Yeah, okay. So
I can't go back.
What day of the week was it?
You can work it out, surely.
How can I work it out what day of the week it was?
Well, you can work out what the day of the week's going to be this year on the 17th of December.
Was a moment.
Well, if you've got a pen and paper, I'm not doing the work for you.
It was a moment in history.
It was a moment in history.
You need to know these things.
We might have to talk amongst ourselves, Neil, while he does some working out. Let's put some little background music on, just while he just to put him off a little bit.
He's got a 1 in 7 chance.
He's got a 1 in 7.
It was
chance.
1 in 12 chance before, or 1 in 16, wasn't it? I don't know.
Just as we listen to the dulcet tones of Serge Gainsbourg.
Another 2-minute.
Tuesday?
Do you know what he sounded like then? Do you know what he sounded like? He sounded like I just walked into a garage and seen a mechanic and said, "Can you do me an MOT?" And he's just turned around and gone to me, "Tuesday?" Is that your final answer? Are you going with it was a Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah, that is correct. It was a Tuesday.
Wow.
You want to know how I knew that?
Go on.
Because I remember Arsenal, we played Chelsea, which I went to, we lost 2-1. And I remember it was the 29th of December 2019, so I went back in time. And
See, that's very clever.
Yeah,
very
is.
logical. I'm impressed.
That's how
Unlike
you work
me.
things out.
For a change, I'm impressed.
Yeah. Well, Josh, it's not a full house, as I mentioned, but it is 13 out of 15 on the subject of Fallon Sherrock. Talk to me about your performance.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I should have got Luca Toni. I knew the face, I just couldn't put a name to it. And
Yeah.
I thought you'd nail that one easy.
I should have done. I think I did an article about it, but not on the Sky website, for my own website. But I can't remember what I had for breakfast last week.
Just may have been where I found the.
Oh, that's adding insult into injury.
Who did Luca Toni predominantly play for? Was it Parma he played for?
He played for a lot. I think he played for a few different teams.
Yeah, more clubs than Tiger Woods.
There we go.
Juve as well, I think.
Juve. Okay, good. Well, Neil, you managed to fox him twice. Are you feeling good about that?
Yeah, I went easy this week because on the last episode it was a tough night for him. So good subject matter, reasonable performance.
Yeah, and we've all learnt something this evening, although quite what, I'm not exactly sure. Well done, Josh. 13 out of 15. Excellent score as usual. That was this episode's Challenge Josh. Challenge Josh.
Hey, I'm Holly James, and you are listening to Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Right then, guys, it's now time to see what else has been going on in the world of darts. This is In the News. News. Josh, we've got some Players' Championship final news to kick us off with first, haven't we?
Yeah, and frustrating news for Jamie Hughes and fans of Yoza. He's been ruled out of the Players' Championship finals I referenced earlier after testing positive for COVID this week. So he's been replaced by Jelle Klassen in the event. You have to feel for Jamie. He's had a really tough year, struggled with a shoulder injury for much of it. He's now fully fit again, but is obviously ruled out after hard, striving away on the Pro Tour for the entire year to qualify for this event and now can't make it. So wish him a speedy recovery and hope to see him back for Ali Pali.
Jamie Hughes' loss, Neil, is obviously Jelle Klassen's gain. Hopefully we can see Jelle try and, rise to the occasion and take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, it's for someone that won the BDO World Championship, did show some good form in the PDC not so long ago, probably 2-3 years ago, maybe even longer now. He needs to get back to...
Well, he's in danger of losing his tour card.
Yeah.
Real danger. So this is giving him a bit of a lifeline. He wins a couple of games here and he might be able to save it, but big week or so for Jelle.
He had a good patch, didn't he, in the PDC? But
played in 2 Premier Leagues, yeah.
He did, yeah. Just falling away now, so under a bit of pressure.
Neil, in other COVID news, I see Richard Madeley has left I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah, I did see that. So I saw a bit of it last night because my son enjoys watching it, and I saw he got put forward for the trial, and then I saw just a tweet today to suggest that he'd been taken to hospital. And the next news is that he's broken COVID protocol and he's left the show.
Shame, I think he would have been...
entertaining.
Yeah, he's big entertainment value, isn't he? Even if it's just for his sort of Partridge-like outbursts sometimes.
Yeah, he's good value. I mean, he's obviously been presenting on a part-time basis on GMB, I think, and he knows how to put his foot in it. And I think on those sort of shows,
that's what you want. Isn't it?
It's kind of what you want. But the bits I saw of him, he actually came across very well. He was actually quite positive and trying to encourage. I think Arlene Phillips and Naughty Boys that were trying to leave. Not that I've been watching it.
No, of course.
But yeah, it's a shame because I think he would have been really good value.
Okay, let's move on from celebrity tittle tattle. Josh, you're going to bring us 9 darter news, aren't you?
Indeed, and it's about Martin Adams, the evergreen Martin Adams, 65 years of age, still throwing world-class darts. Hit another 9-darter, a second of the year in the Modus Online Live League. Fantastic achievement. I mean, he's playing so well, Martin, even at his age, you know, and it's great to see. And Modus are still going strong with their online live league. It's really good entertainment. If you're not working, which I haven't been much this week, I've been watching quite a little bit of that. So good fun. Yeah,
something that kicked off because of, you know, it was invariably brought about because of the COVID situation. And, you know, I think most people thought that when we were back to normal, and the sort of online stuff and televised stuff would probably cease. But Modus have done really well, haven't they? They've made a real name for that competition, and it's still going strong, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, they have, and there's a great variety of players that are competing in it. We've got Wolfie's one of the big names, Robert Thornton, because he's not got a tour card, he's playing in it regularly. The likes of Kevin Painter they've had on, Jose Justicia, the Spanish player, he's top of the group, I think, this week. So there's a real great variety. Kevin Painter, I've mentioned, Wes Newton, so yeah, really enjoyable to watch.
Let's move on to more World Championship news. Obviously, when we were doing our odds section, I did mention Paul Lim, but we've got some other recently qualified players, haven't we, from the international circuit, Josh?
Yeah, Paul Lim qualified, I think, around about a couple of weeks ago now. An incredible achievement from Paul Lim, 67 years of age. Will be making yet another World Championship appearance. I think he's 26th in total, so remarkable longevity from Paul Lim. Also got a few more. We've got Jeff Smith, who was already qualified anyway. He came through the Canadian qualifier, so he would have been qualified via the Pro Tour. He'll now go in as one of the international qualifiers. We've got John Michael from Greece. He always seems to come through those qualifiers. And we've got a new name in terms of the Spanish qualifier, Jean Francisco Rodriguez. So beat some established players from Spain, including Cristo Reyes, I believe. So that'd be one to watch.
So Jeff Smith, so had he already qualified by the Pro Tour before the Canadian qualifier? So what's the benefit of...
For him, it's obviously he's able to enter the event and he's got some more additional prize money. So there's nothing stopping him from entering the event.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so Jeff Smith won the CDC Continental Cup. So it's not just a World Championship qualifier as such. Of course, the winner of that tournament got a World Championship spot, but for Jeff it's another opportunity to earn some prize money and ranking points, and he's taken it. But it's a strange one because obviously he'll be delighted to have won the tournament, but I think he's probably, in theory, would get an easier draw as one of the Pro Tour qualifiers. Now he enters as an international qualifier, so he could get the likes of an Adrian Lewis, a Damon Heta, a Barney in the first round, so it'll be interesting to see how Jeff fares.
Okay, good. Well, more international qualifiers for the Worlds. We wish those guys that have qualified all the very best. Josh, I'm just going to deviate slightly from the list of news items that we've got on the agenda. I want to bring to your attention, and Josh, I think you might be aware of this to a degree. The JDC, the Junior Darts Corporation, who obviously work in partnership with the PDC, breeding the new up-and-coming darts players for the future. This week they've been hosting their Junior World Darts Championship, sponsored by the Holiday Inn Express, at the Europa Point Stadium in Gibraltar. Now, there's some quite sensational news coming out of this event. It's a 4-day event with 4 different tournaments taking place. Now, the first event on the 23rd, a couple of days ago, was the JDC Junior World Cup team event. Now, that team event was won by England. So congratulations to the 4 people who took part in that. Now, one of the people who took part in that team and won that competition was Luke Littler, who is known on the circuit as Luke the Nuke. Now, he's only 14, right? So he's pitched up in Gibraltar on day 1 and taken part, and he's won effectively the Junior World Cup event, right? So many congratulations. Then the following day, so yesterday, he took part in the JDC Junior International Open. Now, Luke won that event.
He did.
The following day, the 24th of November, so yesterday, was the JDC Junior International Open at the same venue. So day 2 of this tournament. He won that. He won the JDC Junior International Open, did Luke Littler, Luke the Nuke. Now, today, and I've been keeping my eye on this as this goes through the day, today was the MVG Masters Open. Luke hit a 9-darter in that event, and I know you know that, Josh, because you commented on a tweet earlier today. Now, bear in mind, he's only 14, this lad. He's at a 9-darter, and I've just I've been keeping an eye on it this afternoon. He then went on to win the MVG Masters Open, so he's won all 3 events. Tomorrow is the JDC Junior World Darts Championship final, which obviously he's taking part in as well. And if he wins that event as well, I mean, do you know much about this lad, Luke Littler? Josh, what can you tell me?
I haven't seen a lot of him. I've watched a few of the games on the stream, like you said, this week, but I know he's so highly rated by a number of players in the game. Steve Brown, of course, does some fantastic work with the Junior Darts Corporation. I know he's a huge fan of him. But the whole England team, in fact, are incredibly talented. You just look at Leighton Bennett. He was a new kid on the block, wasn't he, about 18 months ago at the World Championship in the BDO. You got Henry Coates, the young man who's a fantastic talent. Jacob Hibbert as well, who was part of that England team. So all four of them are incredible talents. But yeah, that 9-darter.
I know.
And the way he did it, it was such confidence. Yeah, an incredible talent and one to keep an eye on, because what a future he's got in the game. There is video footage of that 9-darter. If you go on the JDC Twitter page, you will see some footage of that 9-darter. Absolutely fantastic. Neil, what were you doing what was your darts like at the age of 14?
Probably marginally better than they were now.
You've gone downhill, have you?
As were most of my other sports. I remember I was quite good at golf at 14, and then I think the nerves kick in and you start to lose it. So, but that's brilliant. That's brilliant to hear. This lad sounds like he's got unbelievable potential. So a name to keep an eye on.
Josh, any more news items for us?
No, that's all for this episode, John.
News. This is Martin Adams, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, we are rapidly approaching the end of the show, but as always, we're going to finish off with your questions. This is Josh's Twitter chatter. Yes, that's right. As ever, the faithful listeners, your good selves, have been sending in your questions for the team. Woody Rudd, friend of the show, regular contributor to Josh's Twitter chatter. He's been in contact on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. Woody says, "Hi lads, looking forward to the podcast." Thank you, Woody. Do you think the PDC World Youth Championship age limit needs lowering? Ted Evans, he's 24! ! Says Woody. The standard is good enough to lower it to under 21 at least, surely. Also, who are your picks to win it? Let's hand you over to our resident darts expert, Mr. Josh Gorton.
I think it's a fair question from Woody. I think we had a situation a few years ago where Luke Humphries won the World Youth title against Adam Gadlas, and there was quite a disparity in terms of their ages. But I think the PDC have it around about right, in terms of 24. There's certain players that develop at a younger age than others. But I still think in darting terms, 24 is a baby, isn't it, really? I mean, given the longevity that some players can have. So we saw the impact it had for Michael van Gerwen, who struggled when he joined the PDC, learned how to win again on the youth tour, and obviously we all know what he went on to achieve. So I think the system in place is the right one. There are certain players that it might obviously give an advantage to. They might have more experience if they're on the Pro Tour. There is that argument. If you're on the Pro Tour, should you be allowed to play on the Development Tour? But I think they've earned the right. And I think keep it as the way it is for me.
Okay.
And in terms of the picks, to win it, there's so much quality. There's about 4 or 5 tour card holders in the World Youth Championship. I'm just looking now. You've got the likes of Ted Everts. We've mentioned him already. He's in there. Bradley Brooks, the defending champ. Keane Barry, really good, talented young Irishman. Callum Ridge has got to be one of the favourites. We've seen Callum win 2 Pro Tour titles this year. Got such ability. Not quite done it on the Development Tour this year. So I think he's among the favourites. I also think Rusty Jake Rodriguez. We didn't quite see the best of him at the Grand Slam, but he showed glimpses of his best. I think one of those two might win it.
Neil, you'd have to say Ted Everts at the age of 24. He's got plenty of big stage experience, hasn't he? He's got to be up there as one of the favourites.
Yeah, I think so. As you say, he'll have a lot more experience than other people in that tournament. For me, it's about the terminology. Youth doesn't describe someone to me that's 24. In other sports, you're probably looking at under 21, and I think, if I'm right, this tournament used to be the under 21s, and then it got expanded to that you could be up to 24. So it doesn't seem right to me, and I think it might be because of the term youth. But Everts, as you say, he's got more experience than many others, so you would expect that he would be competitive.
Okay, Josh, let's move on. We've had TJ Basella on Twitter. get in touch. He says, I'll try and keep this short. God bless him. What's the fairest solution for dealing with players who are already qualified for the Worlds via the Pro Tour, competing in qualifier events? Just, and in brackets, he's put Jeff Smith is the most recent one, but clearly not the first. Josh, thoughts on that?
Again, it's another tough one, isn't it? Because there's one argument that's saying that Jeff winning that tournament has deprived someone of the opportunity to qualify for the World Championship. But it's not purely a World Championship qualifier. It's like I say, the Continental Cup, where there's prize money available, and Jeff Smith plays on the tour. So why shouldn't he enter? And why shouldn't he win? I think as long as the criteria is set out by the PDC beforehand and everyone is aware of the rules, maybe if the player who wins it is already qualified for the World Championship, give it to the runner-up. Maybe that's the fairest way. Or assign it then another spot in another qualifier, perhaps. But I certainly don't think there's any issue with Jeff Smith playing in it. And, why shouldn't he take the opportunity to try and win it? So it's a tough one, though, because there'll be certain players saying, well, this is my dream to get in the World Championship. You're already in the world. So it's a tough one. But Jeff's doing absolutely nothing wrong. He's there to compete and there to win, and that's what he did at the weekend, and all credit to him.
Okay, Josh, we've got just one more question coming via Twitter this evening. This is from Smithy57. Smithy says, Josh, you are often in and around the players at Ali Pali during the Worlds, and you get the opportunity to meet them backstage. What is a typical player's itinerary in terms of how soon before their game do they arrive at the venue to prepare for their game?
Good
I mean,
question.
obviously, I suppose everyone's different, aren't they, player to player? But roughly, sort of, how soon before they're due on stage do they get to the venue?
Good question. I mean, I don't see the players come in, so it's hard to get a gauge on it. But I know, like Mervyn King, for example, was in the room about 8 hours before.
Really?
And Mervyn King is renowned for being like the most dedicated practicer out there. I think most players usually tend to turn up about 3 or 4 hours beforehand and have a little bit of time on the practice board. Just get ready, get in the zone, and relax for their match.
How many practice boards are there? So, say, for example, an evening session at Ali Pali, quite early on in the tournament, when there might be sort of 4 or 5 games taking place. How many practice boards are there out of interest?
Good God, I don't have a clue. I've never been in there.
You've never been in there?
We're not allowed
you're not
access
allowed.
into the players' room.
Right,
No,
okay.
so I haven't been in there. But I would imagine there are certainly enough for players to be allowed to practice on their own.
Yeah.
But some players like to have their own space. I know I've been to a few Pro Tours where there's about 8 practice boards there on a Pro Tour day. And some players are just on their own, earphones in, thrown away.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the other players almost practice in groups, and you see a lot of the Dutch lads all together having a throw. Same with some of the German players or the Belgian players. So it depends on the individual. Some players like to practice on their own. Some like to have a game against someone. But it all varies. But yeah, Mervyn King, if he's playing at midday, he'll be there about 6 a.m. in the morning, I think, having a throw. It's just unreal.
No, I reckon the modern darts player, if we went back to the days of Bristow, I reckon the modern player now turns up a lot earlier and has a lot more practice and gets in the zone a lot more than, as I say, the likes of the Bristows from back in the day. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's true of any sport, really, that the preparation is...
I reckon Bristow would have come straight from the pub.
Possibly. Had a few throws at the practice board and then onto the stage. But I think in all sports now, there seems to be more emphasis put on preparation, and it's not just about turning up at the arena. A lot of them have got psychologists as well, so it's a whole shebang in terms of the preparation for tournaments and for matches that goes a long way beyond just turning up at the venue at a certain time to practice. I'm sure they've got some of them have got nutritionists. There'll be discipline in terms of when they're eating, etc. But depending on when their game starts, so 100% it'll be a lot more organised, and they'll be a lot more prepared than they would have been in the past.
Oh, funny, I think after Barney played Gary Anderson at the Grand Slam, the Dutch players, win or lose, have to speak to the Dutch broadcaster, RTL7, and Barneveld spoke to them after the game and said he was observing Gary before the game, and Barney said he was on the board for around about 2 hours, Barney himself, and he said Gary, he thinks he threw about 15 darts maximum.
Really?
And he said he went into the game quite confident. He said he missed double 12 for a 9-darter himself before the game, and Gary had barely thrown. And he said he went on, and Gary, goes up and averages 104. So I think it just depends. Certain players are so naturally gifted they don't need to practice. Others feel they have a routine, but I think if you're playing like 3 or 4 games in a day, I don't think you can practice for 6 hours and be at your optimum. It's about trying to prepare yourself in the right way. But as we said, everyone's got their own little routines and ways of doing it.
How do players practice when they're in the middle of a big tournament? You know, Phil Taylor, I remember when he was at his height, he said, the reason I'm better than everyone else is because I practice harder than everybody else. If you're, let's say, for example, you're taking part in the Worlds, and, you know, you get the practice board, obviously, before you go on stage and play your game. But then, obviously, you leave there and you go back to the... I'm guessing most people stay in hotels.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
It must be difficult to practice. You know, or do they have boards set up in their rooms?
They'll have boards set up in their rooms, yeah. And some, maybe... if you're not playing, you can still go to the venue.
Right.
So if you're staying locally to Ali Pali, for example, you can still go to the practice room and have a throw. But that's not even the length of time you practice. I think it's the actual quality of the practice. I think Wayne Mardle spoke to me about it before and said you can have 3 hours of just throwing at a dartboard, but if you're just throwing, you're not. Whereas if you have specific routines, a lot of players practice finishes from like 170 to 121. You've got 3 or 6 darts to take out any finish from 121 to 170. Yeah, and that gets you ready. That's all like the discipline, and that gets you focused. If you're just throwing 3 darts at a board at the treble 20, all these players can hit a treble 20.
That's what we do. Although we don't hit the
not the treble 20, the single one and the single 5.
Our warm up is trying it as many treble 20s as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas theirs will be a little bit more scientific.
Oh, yeah.
As you said.
Yeah, if you're aiming for like Josh mentions, their specific targets and numbers and stuff, it's training that muscle memory, isn't it, to sort of, you know, make the dart go where you want it to go, I suppose. So yeah. Okay, yeah, good question. I enjoyed that. Well done. Any other questions, Josh? No, I don't think we have got any.
No, that's all for this one, John.
Excellent stuff. That is Josh's Twitter chatter. Okay, that brings us neatly to the end of the show. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's always good to get round the table. Josh, plans for the weekend? I suppose you're working, are you? And
no, I'm not actually.
You're not working?
No, because it's RTV4, the Players Championship.
But I meant, you know, you're not just a darts man at Sky. You cover a multitude of sports these days.
I do. To be fair, I was offered a shift Saturday, but I'm going to the Arsenal Newcastle Saturday lunchtime.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I
might be at half past 2, depending on how the result goes. So, no, and then out with the family on Sunday. It's my aunt's, my great aunt's 75th birthday.
Oh, well, many happy returns to her. Good.
So that'll be good. And then doing a little bit of work. It's hopefully the World Championship draw next Monday.
Yeah. Is that live on
Sky Sports? Sky Sports,
so
it'll be.
Wayne's doing that, isn't he?
Yep, Wayne Mardle, Emma Payton, and maybe Barry Hearn.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to see. But yep, those two will definitely be there, and that'll be Monday. I don't know the exact time. It'll be sometime in the afternoon, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay, good. Neil, plans for the weekend? Got anything exciting coming up?
No, I was thinking of going to Liverpool, but I've got to run the kids around, so it's probably not going to happen.
Neil, I know you've been doing some work for a Liverpool, was it a podcast or a live stream? Do you want to give them a shout out and a plug?
Yeah, it's the LFC Transfer Room. You can get them on Twitter at LFC Transfer Room. Plenty of good content, written articles, YouTube videos, podcasts. Any Liverpool fan will enjoy what they see.
Josh, he's been moonlighting with another podcast. What do you make of that? Is that a sackable offence or? Although you did pitch up on the Sky Sports podcast once,
live streams, which is a bit more, pressurised.
Highbrow now, isn't it?
We are going highbrow. Maybe we should go down the live stream and get Josh on camera.
I've suggested it a number of times, but he doesn't seem to.
Watch this space.
In the new year, we might have a conversation about doing maybe a live show or a live stream of some sort.
I always think doing one from Ali Pali is the favoured option.
You have to get permission, though, I would have thought, wouldn't you, to sort of do any sort of filming around Ali Pali? Or...
It'd be a nightmare, really, logistically, because in the press room, obviously, you've got the players coming in and interview, so you couldn't...
I was talking about in the car, not in the press room.
In the car. Just outside. Yeah, but the problem is you won't be able to watch the darts if you're in the car, Neil, so that could be a slight issue.
I don't know if I get a mixing desk in the car or indeed a Wi-Fi signal, so that might be difficult.
Standing by the side of the road in the 70 mile an hour wind.
Although during COVID, I remember you had a game of online Zoom darts against each other. We live streamed that on the Josh's Dartistry
What a dreadful
page.
Game of darts that was.
We could do that, but I like the idea of live streaming a challenge, Josh, or something like that. I think that could be fun.
That could be quite entertaining, yeah.
But that's something
not for me, but
but that's something for us to discuss in the new year. Anyway, thank you, gents, for your company. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
I'm John, and we'll see you next time.
Josh's Dartistry.